And we are back with another weekly discussion of Kids Deserve It. I'm so grateful for all y'all joining in, especially on many of you who are either have been on your Christmas break or continuing your starting it today. So I love hearing where people are from as we get started. So if you can go ahead and type in the comments where you are from, and then we'll go ahead and get started here in a couple seconds. Roman from Canada, my man Roman. So glad to have you. I recognize a lot of faces actually joining in tonight. So love to hear where some other people are from. North Texas. Hey, Julie. As well as I see Jordan and my mom and Brenham and Brent. Lots of great faces that I recognize. So thank you all for being here. If you and one thing that I love too, if y'all can go ahead and slide over and share this out, really appreciate that. So, thank you so much for joining this week on our weekly chats with Kids Deserve It. This week is over Chapter 20, Act Like a Child. This is another chapter that is fairly short for us, but I think there's a lot of power in this week's chapter. This week's chapter talks a lot about the kind of curiosity and wonder that kids have. And you know, one of the main things that this chapter came from was the keynote that Adam and I heard from Eric Wall when we were at NAESP a few years ago. And Eric Wall was absolutely one of the best keynote speakers I've ever heard in my life. And he talked a lot about creativity and tapping into that creativity and tapping into that childlike energy and wonder and excitement. And one of the things he said that really spoke out to me is, you know, we can walk into a room full of kindergartners and you can ask, who's an artist in here? And every single hand goes up in the air because they all believe they're an artist. But then when you walk into a high school senior class and you ask who in here is an artist, you get maybe one or two hands. And you get comments of, well, I can't really draw that great. Well, I don't really do that very good. Or that's not really me. And it kind of makes you think about, you know, where did we lose that belief that we were great at whatever we were doing? And, you know, to be able to bring that back into the classroom and to bring that in with kids, we have to embrace the child within ourselves. And we have to find those moments every single day to celebrate where we are identifying with that child within us all. Because even as adults, so many of us lose that. You know, I think about so many people that I talk to on a daily basis, so many adults, educators, who say, well, I'm not really good at that. Well, you know, that's, oh, no, I can't do that. Or and it's funny when we're asked to draw something and people will go, oh, well, all I can do is stick figures. And, you know, if you think about art in particular, just that as an example, and you go to like an art museum, the art is so subjective over what is good and what is not. And so when do we begin to define what we think is good or isn't good? I think about, too, the imagination and the creativity in kids for really believing that the cow could jump over the moon. Or really believing that when I read On the Roof as a ninja and I never took my mask off all day, kindergartners believed that a real ninja was on the roof. I mean, it's those kind of things that just absolutely... Where did we lose that sense of wonder? And this chapter just kind of goes into how can you, as an adult, go and embrace your own inner child while at the same time adding that creativity back into the classroom for the kids to be reminded of their inner child as well. Because sometimes we focus so heavily on sit down, be quiet, get in line, do what you're supposed to do, here's an exam, here's an activity, here's this or that, that we turn them into little robots instead of letting them be kids. That's one of the reasons why I believe recess is so important, because that gives them a time to just be themselves and to learn how to interact. And you know, we talk about things in this chapter of some ideas, and the first thing on our list of ideas of way to embrace your inner child is to take some time to just sit and color. Adult coloring books have become a really big hit lately, but you know, one of the other things Eric Wall talked about in his keynote was that there is actual research that talks about how the smell of Crayola crayons and the act of coloring with them actually reduces stress. And so that's a pretty cool thing to think about. And there's been so many staff meetings of mine where we've started it out with coloring. And so it's something I haven't done actually the last couple of ones. I need to bring that back, talking about this now. But it is a very calming experience. Just sit there and color. I found that that's the quickest way to get a room full of teachers to be quiet, is to put some crayons in front of them, because that really helps as well. I love one of the other ideas on here of doing things like blindfolding yourself and let your students lead you through a maze. I love the idea. I saw Roman put it in here too. I love the idea of dressing up as characters too. There's so many, my teachers on my campus have done some really great classroom transformations where not only have they changed the environment, but they also changed the way they're dressed. I've worn different costumes and dressed up, and I know I have teacher friends who have done the same thing. People like Kim Bearden, Hope King, Jordan Pacheva. I mean, lots of great teachers are doing a lot of awesome things. And I think that adds an element of fun in there too, even when you have the older kids. And I have some high school teachers that I work with who say things like, oh, well, my kids, they're not into that. Well, you've kind of just made them not into that by having that kind of whole perspective. We have to get out there and step out of our comfort zones. And will the high school kids act like they're too cool for it? Of course they will. I mean, they're high school kids. They're too cool for everything. But I always say, I have high school students that I've worked with that work harder for a sticker than a kindergartner does. And so it's all about in how you set it up and in how you kind of work through those things. A couple of the other things on here that I want to just kind of spend some time talking about. One of them is spending time with 5-year-olds. Especially if you don't teach kindergartners or pre-Kers. Spending time, just go sit down and talk to them. Ask them what they're doing. Ask them what their dreams are, what they want to be when they grow up. It really reminds you on how to have that sense of excitement and wonder. And especially if you teach at a secondary school like a high school or junior high, find some time to go connect with the little ones, to go and see what they're doing. A couple of other things on here that I really like is number 10 in our list, and that is forgive quickly and then move on. I think that is so important for educators, for us to remember that with our kids, but also for us to remember that with each other, our colleagues, our coworkers, our administrators, all kinds of things, to forgive quickly and then move on. And that is sometimes very hard to do. Now notice it doesn't say to forget it, but we can move on and forgive them and still be able to make things work. We love having secret handshakes, high fives, going down the slide at recess. You want to come the cool kid? You go down the slide with the kids at recess or swing with them on the swing. It was so funny. I was swinging on the swing with some 5th graders the other day, and then I go to Twitter and one of my teachers had taken a picture of me on the swing, and I was like, oh my gosh, because I still get to that point where I'm like embarrassed by stuff like that, but then it's like, well, the kids loved it and they were all over me when I played kickball with them at recess the other day. And it was like, you know what? So often we go to schools and we look at recess and the teachers are out there standing along the fence or they're standing in a circle and the kids are out there playing, having a great time. But when you see kids all huddled together in a big group, you usually go out there, it's usually a teacher in the mix getting involved with them that they absolutely love. And it takes 10 seconds to go down a slide. I have a hoverboard that I bought that I use at school only, and it is so much fun to go down the hall and to interact with kids and check in on them going down the hall on a hoverboard. They just think it's so cool. And for me, that's a way that I embrace my inner child, is by getting out and do that. And I see even, and in here, Chad says that he plays soccer 3 days a week, and he's the worst player, but kids don't care. I think that's so exactly right. The kids don't care how good you are. They just love that you are out there actually playing with them. And they don't even care if you're bad or anything. So I think that's great. I also think the last thing on our list in this chapter, and that is sitting on the carpet with students and being on their level. So often when we work with kids, especially younger kids, we are standing, talking to them, and looking down on them. I try to make it a point when I have conversations with kids to get down on my knees or to sit down on the floor with them, or you will often catch me, and you'll see in a lot of photos that my staff posts, is laying on the floor. I absolutely love laying on the floor and hanging out with kids and reading with them or building things. And I see my mom put on here, sometimes I need help getting up. Sometimes we do, but the kids are there and they'll help you get up too. Or we may just need to roll to a wall and push off the wall to get up. But I know exactly what you mean. There's some days where I'm like, okay, my knees are hurting today. I can't get up from this. But when we choose to see from a child's perspective, we see things in a different light. We learn to be more creative. We learn to be more excited. We learn to believe in the impossible and to remove a lot of the limitations that are placed on our kids because they're placed by us. It's so often we want to look at it and say, my kids can't do this. Those kids can't do that. We're not ready for this. That is way above their level. Well, all we've done is place limitations on them. So it's important for us to go in and believe, truly believe, that we can do whatever we set our mind to. One of my favorite quotes that I've actually used a lot recently is by Margaret Mead. And that quote is, "Never doubt that a small group of people will change the world, when indeed it's the only one that ever has." And when I hear that quote, I think about how our kids and our educators and us, we have a huge possibility to go and change the world. And the only thing that stands in our way is ourselves. And so we have to believe that regardless of our circumstances, the expectations placed on us, the things that fall apart when we are trying so hard to get it to work, if we continue to believe and have that hope and learn to act like a child and embrace that inner child, we can do exceptional things because we will believe in the impossible. And when you believe in the impossible, it doesn't stay impossible. It becomes much more likely to happen. So I hope that every one of you finds a way over this Christmas break, because many of you are probably on break or fixing to start your break, that you can embrace your inner child and that you can spend some time away from education doing something that fuels your soul and grows you, but also allows you to push yourself and act like a kid. Go play in the dirt, go draw with finger paint, go color, go find some little kids to sit and chat with and see what's going on with them. But spend some time acting like a kid, because it truly can change your perspective and your attitude and put you really in the right place. I hope you join our Twitter chat tonight in just a couple minutes at 8 o'clock Central, as we'll be continuing this discussion, but getting to learn from people way more smarter than me on Twitter and sharing their ideas. And I'll be there as well with my co-author, Adam Welcome. Thank you so much for being here today, guys, and we will see you next week.